Hello, a very warm welcome to Fireside Chats. I am Magla Pillai and I have in the studio with me today Sister Denise, an experienced practitioner of Raj Yoga meditation. In this series, we look at a number of topics surrounding the topic of spirituality. We look at how it impacts on your consciousness. We ask you to examine what your relationship is with God and how you can make this relationship deeper and more meaningful. Today's topic is entitled Destroying Obstacles. Destroying Obstacles. We hope that the next half an hour will be of some relevance to your personal as well as professional life. Thank you for joining us. Sister Denise, thank you for joining us and a very warm welcome to today's show.
Thank you.
Destroying obstacles. A vision comes to mind of some strong character with a sword in his hand saying, get out of my way, don't mess with me. What does destroying obstacles mean to a person who has embraced spirituality?
Well, I think along with destroying obstacles, there's also overcoming obstacles.
Yes.
If you are on your road and there's a big stone that fell down from the mountain on it, which does happen here in Mount Abu in the monsoon season, the boulders fall down and then you cannot go ahead in your car, but you can walk around it, or you can climb over it, or you can arrange for it to fall further down the mountain, but that you have to do carefully. So there are definitely going to be obstructions that come in your way, many different kinds of obstructions, and then you have to deal with them. So that means, one obstruction is coming from people, maybe people in your family, people in your society who say, we do not agree with what you want to do, you're not allowed to, you do not have the freedom of choice, you have to do what we want. And there are many, many societies where the individual really does not have the right to decide how to lead his or her life. So this will then be an obstacle. And what happens when there's an obstacle is it's a force. And you have to figure out, how you're going to deal with it, because you want to keep good relations with your family, but sometimes they may even use violence against you. Well, if somebody uses violence against you, I think to me it changes the game. Because if you say, I don't want you to do this, then there's room for negotiation. If somebody starts using violence, then they're sort of breaking a very important code of relationship, which means that you are no longer under any obligation to do what they want. So because of that change of game, you can say, well, if you think you can do violence to me, see you later, I'm going off this way, because there's nothing reasonable about me staying here to be violated. But a society, the wider society, will occasionally condone that, because there are many societies where just an individual resisting violence, even that is considered not even right. So then you have to see by what value system you want to operate your life. And I think that, the fundamental right of a person is that if they wish to do something which is right, and leading a life of purity, leading a life of spirituality can in no way be called wrong, then you have a very good reason to say, well, you want to apply violence on me because I want to do something right. If I submit to your violence, then that's actually wrong. So I'm going to I'm going to find a way to move through this obstruction. You may find that the obstacle on your way is coming from within yourself. You may have a lot of negative karma from your past, which just doesn't allow you to pursue your higher spiritual ideal. And in that case, you have to deal with it, and you have to call upon your strength, you have to meditate a lot or whatever it is until that internal obstacle melts, So there are different kinds of obstacles that will come. And, the society where I grew up, I was very fortunate that the time when I encountered the opportunity to study Raj Yoga, I was absolutely free to do what I wanted. But definitely I experienced that people would say, this is crazy, you need your head examining, this is not normal, etc., etc. And I think that that is good, because then you have to see, do you really, really want to do this? Then you have to deal with all of these objections. And so I think it's quite healthy for there to be obstacles, because if it's totally open, it doesn't cause you to have to strengthen yourself as you move forward. So I think in that sense, a certain amount of obstacles is really good. One type of obstacle happens, which I think is very interesting, and this is mentioned by Schopenhauer in his philosophy. Schopenhauer had talked about a type of obstacle that a person encounters when they want to do something absolutely new and different. And I think that it's really quite relevant here. He said that anyone who wants to do something absolutely new and different, the first thing they will encounter is they will be ridiculed. And so you have to be able to get past that obstruction of ridicule. And then the second phase is that you will encounter strong, sometimes even violent opposition. So if you want to get past really strong opposition, then you have to be very resilient and very powerful to get past it. And you have to be really sure that what you're doing is what you really want to do. And then if you get past that, comes the third stage, which is where everybody says, oh yes, we all knew that this is what it is, and so you arrive at a general consensus that what you're bringing in is totally the right thing. You remember when somebody first mooted the idea of telephone, and the reaction was, they said, well, a telephone is good because you can talk to somebody who's somewhere else. And their reaction was, well, who would want to talk to somebody who's not in the same room? And now everyone must have their phones, and not only that, the mobile phone. So there are many inventions that are really very different, but the rest of the world doesn't see it. And if you see it, you have this kind of visionary capacity, then you just have to be aware that there will be obstacles, and you have to have the strength to push through. And by dealing with the obstacles, you actually acquire a greater experience and greater strength with carrying your idea forward. So it's maybe not pleasant, but in the end I think that it's good.
Okay. Now, Sister Denise, you mentioned the various type of obstacles that one faces, both internal and external. Tell us what qualities are required within to face whatever life throws at you, and by that I mean both internal and external. Strength is an obvious one. Strength and courage are obvious ones, but I know that your answer will be different, so take us through that. The reason I'm asking this question in this context is because for many there's the feeling, I can't handle this. I don't have what it takes. And what we do in situations like that is that we resort to taking the assistance of other people. And if that's not available, or even that is available, then it's escape routes like drugs and alcohol and whatever people choose nowadays. So the feeling that I can't take anymore is very deep in people, especially if you get knocked by life again and again and again, and your life is one huge obstacle path.
Well, I think that a very important quality, along with strength and courage, which are really important, is perseverance. Just the power to put one foot in front of the other and keep doing that one day at a time, one step at a time. That's really very, very empowering. And another thing I think is very important is conviction. Inner conviction. This is right. This is what I want to do. It has to happen. I'm not going to give up. Power to keep on going on. Very, very helpful. Also, I think that faith, in yourself. Another thing which I think really helps is you're not doing this alone. I'm doing this with God. I'm doing this because, if you feel you have a calling, well, God wants me to do this, so that's that. That's what I'm going to do. So this conviction is really very, very strong. It's stronger than a lot of obstacles.
Sister Denise, how does God help a person who is facing a steep challenge in his or her life? How does he come to the assistance of an individual?
When you're doing a spiritual practice, meditation is an important side of it. Very, very important. And a lot of us, when we face obstacles, what we will do is very intense, long and powerful meditation, which is such a thing that it can change people's minds, it can change the circumstances, it sort of opens up the way. And so we use the term the power of yoga. So I think it's very important for someone who is studying Raj Yoga and practicing this, that it's not just something that you know and talk about, but you have to actually give time to accumulate this power of yoga, which is a kind of light, it's a kind of energy that actually opens up the way, and you get this energy directly from God. So God says, take from me, use me, I'm available, but then if you don't, then you won't have what it takes to get through the blocks.
Now, Sister Denise, it's very natural when you feel that you're a bit short in the strength department to grab the hand of your nearest and your dearest, who may or may not be willing and able to assist you, through your time of crisis. When you draw from another human being, does that weaken you in any way? I'm looking at it in this context. If you fractured your leg and after the initial healing time, your orthopedic surgeon might give you a stick to help you walk during a pair of crutches, a pair of crutches to help you walk in order to recover from your injury. But if you use it for far too long, you're doing yourself a disservice because your muscles become weaker. So when we rely on other people, it may feel strengthening. Does it weaken the soul in any way?
I think there is definitely a time when you will take help, but you should not make that help your support when you should be taking support from God. So again, it has to do with your power of discrimination. And a person who gives help also has to understand that somebody might want to take more help than is really healthy. So then at that time you have to say, okay, I'm withdrawing now. You walk by yourself. So it kind of cuts both ways. But definitely if on either side of the equation, the help that you take from a human being or any other limited source, you can say, it's okay for a little while, but if you rely on it, then it really weakens you, yeah. But if you take help from God, that help is so subtle and so intelligent that it is going to actually be ultimately the right thing that makes you really, really strong. Because it also happens with God, you know, God will withdraw and say, okay, now, you know, you walk by yourself. I'm here, don't forget, but I'm not going to do your work for you.
There is this age-old adage that goes, do as much as you can and then give it to God. Does that work for you? Or do you do it differently?
No, I think that's very good. You do what you can and the rest you give to God. Because after all, you know, who are you? You can't change the world, but you can work with God, you can follow the instructions, you can do whatever you can, but it's after all not your work, it's God's work, isn't it?
Okay. So Denise, you know, there are certain individuals that have a fairly good life with one or two knocks that life sends their way. And then you get some individuals where it's crisis after crisis after crisis, and the obstacles come fast and furiously. What would be your advice to such individuals who have to face far more than the others, where you feel, I could deal with A, B, and C, but I cannot deal with anything more because I've got nothing left? You know, this is called, I think, the bottom of the barrel syndrome, where you know, you've got nothing left, where it's not that you're totally weak, but you've dealt with so much that the soul, the spirit, has become tired of dealing with well, it's karmic accounts.
I think you have to look at it, you know, there's another thing which is a crisis junkie.
And what is that?
A crisis junkie is somebody who thrives on going from crisis to crisis to crisis because you get a high from being in a critical situation. So there is that. But I think that if your karma is correct, or if you start learning about correct karma, it is going to change your situation. And it's also going to change your ability to manage your situation. So you go from crisis to crisis, then you have to have a look, okay, what are the patterns involved here? And to what extent am I creating these crises? That would be a crisis junkie. And then somebody who has a lot of crisis, but they're doing the work, the crises are going to shift and change, and you're going to be really feeling, okay, I'm getting somewhere here, and I can manage to deal with it. I'm learning from each one, and I'm coming out of the this dark situation. Yeah.
Sister Denise, you get individuals who face life challenges and destroy, as it were, obstacles that come across their path. But as a result of going through one too many crises, or maybe just one major catastrophe in their life, there's a feeling that the spirit has been damaged. Okay, so they faced it, they've overcome it, but there's the shell of them left over. So how do you rebuild? How do you fill up so that you come to the person that you'd like to be again?
Well, you need a lot of patience, because it will take time. And you sit with yourself and you, brick by brick, build yourself up. You keep yourself near to God, you study the study, you do everything systematically, and with patience you will find yourself back in one piece. that is the only way.
So it's a question of investing energy in oneself with help from God.
Yes, definitely. And I think, don't try and find a shortcut, because there aren't shortcuts. And there's nothing wrong with doing the thing properly. You have enough time.
There are people who have reached suicidal state. Some of whom may be watching you right now, who reached the end and who felt that because of all of that life has thrown in their direction, they cannot go on anymore. It's not a question of conquering obstacles, it's a question of why should I live? Because my life is so hard. There are many, many who feel life is too hard. What is your message for these individuals? And unfortunately, we all know people who have taken their own lives, and we all know people who are about to do so.
Well, I would be very reluctant to make a generalization, because everyone's situation is very individual. Some people are much weaker than others. You have weak people can hardly manage anything. You have strong people who can manage very difficult things which they feel is quite easy. So, everyone is extremely individual in this case. But I think that, you need to talk to God, and there are people in your life who can be very helpful for you, because if a person has reached that level, then you need to take professional help. This is not something that you can just necessarily pull yourself out of. Raj Yoga is sometimes it's not for the faint-hearted. So I think, if somebody thinks that Raj Yoga is going to be an alternative to therapy or something like this, no, it's not.
Okay.
Raj Yoga is quite a high-level personal spiritual discipline. It's not a free shrink or something like this. Absolutely not. So, somebody who is experiencing a serious difficulty, they feel homicidal, they feel suicidal, they need to go to the medical profession to work through that.
So thank you, Sister Denise. We have to say goodbye to you. I'd like you to leave the viewer with some last words on the fascinating subject of overcoming obstacles.
I would say that when anything seems to be really too much for you, you have to put it in the hands of God, put yourself in the hands of God. If there's people that you feel responsible for, but you're not able to fulfill those responsibilities, put them in the hands of God. Really try to bring God into the picture, use God, and do not worry. You see, you're not alone. There has to be that awareness that there is someone with you.
Okay, and that feeling brings a sense of comfort?
Well, it brings a sense of comfort. It allows other energies to operate on your situation. Otherwise, you can actually sort of limit it, and you don't have to.
Okay. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining us. The beauty and the depth of today's message is contained by Sister Denise's words that we all face obstacles as people. They may be small, they may be large. Some face one major challenge, or it may be a variety of different types of challenges. We get internal and external challenges. If this is your reality, please do not feel alone or isolated. This is called life, and Sister Denise has shared how one can simply learn to know yourself, draw on your own resources, and very specifically she shared how one can invoke the help of the divine by simply letting him know that you need his or her help as you are walking through life. So a very beautiful and powerful message. And I think what stays with me the most is when Sister Denise shared not to feel overwhelmed by whatever life throws at you, because nothing is too great for you to bear. And Sister Denise also shared very realistically that if your problems feel far too overwhelming, you might need medical help, for example. So do feel free. Do feel free to ask for help if you feel that you cannot handle your challenges alone. So Sister Denise, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for lending us your ear for half an hour. I do wish you everything of the best on your own spiritual journey. Thank you and goodbye.